What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today we have got a brand new type of event coming to Marvel Snap, Power Couple. So I thought a cool way to engage with this new content would just be to do a tier list and give my thoughts on the best and worst power couples to play in Marvel Snap over the next week. This event is only going to last a week, but I think the ramifications of this type of event will have long-lasting impacts on the future success of Marvel Snap. So I am super excited to just see how all of this plays out. It's really cool that Second Dinner is testing some new waters here. And we're gonna kick things off with possibly the most straightforward power couple. Kind of ironic because they are the only lesbian couple in this list. Angela and Sarah, I think, are an S tier to kick this video off. And the reason for that is these cards are already cards that kind of go well together. They were previously a really good deck in the past and actually received some nerfs because they were so commonly played. There's some other cards that have been changed that make this couple a little bit worse now, but the main synergy between the two is still pretty strong. Sarah is at its best when it is discounting 2-cost cards. That might seem a little bit wrong now because Sarah is most commonly discounting Shang-Chi and Enchantress. However, when you get 1 energy off of a 2-cost card, that's a 50% discount, as opposed to a 3-cost card that's a 33% discount, and a 4-cost card only getting a 25% discount. So Sarah is really good with 2-cost cards. Angela is a 2-cost card, and Angela also works really well with 2-cost cards and with the ability of Sarah to be able to dump your hand and trigger Angela multiple times. There are some other things that are a little bit awkward, like Kitty Pryde and Elsa aren't as good as they used to be when this deck was really popping off. So it's not super powerful, but I think that it still stands out among all of the other power couples in this video as a power couple that you would probably play without the event, potentially. If you wanted to play Angela, Sarah is still pretty good, and like the fact that you get the +1 power on them is kind of like unnerfing the cards. So I do think that that is an interesting way to look at it, and why it's probably going to be a pretty easy way to take this. But I think it's not super exciting. I think the next power couple that I'm going to talk about, which I'm actually also going to put in S tier, is really exciting, and that is Black Panther and Nakia. And the reason that I think this is so cool is because Black Panther can get a lot of value out of that +1 from the power couple, and also gets a lot of power from Nakia. Like, these cards are synergistic. These cards do want to get played together. They haven't quite gotten played together before, and that's because the cards that work with Black Panther don't really benefit that much from Nakia, and that would be Wong, Odin, Arnim Zola. None of those cards really care that much about getting +2 power because they can do much more powerful things. However, the +2 power that you're getting from Nakia and the +1 power that you're getting from the power couple, both of those can add up tremendously. +1 power on Black Panther is +2 power, or potentially +4 power if you interact with it with Arnim Zola or Odin or Wong. So the +1 power can go a long way, and honestly, I'm just a big fan of Black Panther and Marvel Snap. I think it's really cool, so I'm definitely interested in trying this one out, and I think this is probably the one that I'm the most excited about. The one that I'm maybe the least excited about, I have to say, is probably Captain America and Agent 13. I don't think these cards have ever seen play together, and you know what? I think that this might just be something, this is like a bone for the people that are still on Series 1 or something, because Yeah, neither of these are particularly exciting or powerful cards. Neither of them really sees play. They are getting a +2 power. I kind of have this cut off here. Apologies. They are getting +2 power from the power couple bonus. And +2 power is a lot, especially on cheap cards. So I do have to give a little bit of a nod to that. All of the other cards getting +2 power, like we have Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic, I guess that's a 2 and a 3. So that even that is like kind of comparable. But the awkward thing is these two cards have zero built-in synergy. Yeah, none at all. So it's kind of a stretch. You just have to be putting, I don't know, it's like they have zero built-in synergy, but it's also not like either one of them is good enough that you could just justify throwing the other one into a deck, which I think might be different than like Black Panther, for instance. Like Black Panther or Sarah, both of those cards are good enough that you could consider throwing their power couple into the deck just for a few extra points. Whereas like Captain America and Agent 13, I haven't played either of those cards in a pretty long time. So I don't think that this is going to be one that is super exciting, but yeah, let's move along here. And next we have Gambit and Rogue, and I'm putting this at A tier. Both of these are good cards. Both of these are getting +2 power. We see some of the cards getting +2 power, some getting +1. I think that +2 is pretty cool here, especially because both of these cards are playable. And some other things about them, they both are on reveals, not super relevant. They both cost 3. Very relevant, and I think that is pretty cool. I don't have too much else to say other than that. You can put both of these in a Silver Surfer list. Gambit is not super common in Silver Surfer list, but definitely has seen some play, and I think that just going this route in a Silver Surfer list for the next week and just having 2 extra power on 2 really solid cards is going to be totally fine. So this is not, again, like something super exciting because they don't really synergize with each other, but they're powerful cards that can both go in the same deck. So just put them in the same deck together for this week. And then we have 2 cards that, okay, these cards do have some synergies, but I'm going to put Mr. and Mrs. Fantastic at C tier. So these have both appeared alongside Silver Surfer in the past. That's definitely worth noting. You could make a Silver Surfer list with literally all 3 of these power couples this week, and I think that'll be something fun that some players will be doing. Mr. Fantastic with +2 power is then a 3/8. That's pretty cool. That's a lot of stats. Invisible Woman as a 2/5 is also really good. And Invisible Woman has been a great card in some metas. However, the reason that this has to get a C tier, Invisible Woman's kind of just a liability now. You could just play her as a 2/5 and play her on the final turn, pretend like she doesn't have any text at all. But the downside of putting cards underneath her to get Goliath, I think, is just way too big of a risk. There are some Silver Surfer decks, like I said, that have made good use of Invisible Woman in the past. Specifically, you just put a Silver Surfer behind them, and then the Silver Surfer reveals at the end of the game, and you get to pump up all of your 3-cost cards. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in your curve, and some other cards in the deck, like Killmonger, also do a decent job behind Invisible Woman. So I think that there is some synergy here, which is really cool. And specifically, I've actually been thinking about this pair for a while, because you take a look at the Fantastic Four and you've got these two these two are the most synergistic. The next ones are Human Torch and the Thing, which like could not be further synergistically from each other and the other two. So I think that the Fantastic Four is kind of a little bit all over the place as opposed to, well, like some of the Spider-Man characters that we'll talk about in just a moment. But that has been an awkward thing for me. Even though I'm not like the biggest Marvel fan, I do kind of get into some of the lore, and I think it's cool when cards that are thematically tied can also be mechanically tied. This is a little bit of a ham-fisted way to do it with power couples, but all that is to say Fantastic Four isn't like super synergistic amongst itself, but this pair can work. I'm just a little bit afraid of Alioth, which, yeah, Alioth is a pretty strong combination. Next up, we've got Iron Man and Penny Potts. What's her name? Rescue in Marvel Snap. I think I'm gonna throw this at B tier. I'll put it in B tier for now. It might have to go down to C tier as we progress through this video. I'm gonna put 2 things on each tier. Yeah, you know what? It'll make it into B tier. It'll be the lesser part of B tier, and here's the reason. I talked about some cool things with Black Panther getting the +1 power. Iron Man does the same thing. +1 power is going to be +2 power. In fact, it's going to be +4 power because the way that you have to curve out with Rescue is you have to play Iron Man onto the rescued location the next turn. If you're curving out in a general game, that's how you're going to wind up sequencing your plays, which means both of the cards are going to give the +1 power to each other, which means it's going to be +4 power in your Iron Man location, which is cool. It's just tough to spend your turn 4 and your turn 5 definitely winning that location. It just means that then the first 3 turns of the game and the 6th turn all have to go to another location, and you're also playing into Enchantress and Shang-Chi, because once you give +1 power to Rescue, I believe, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe Rescue is a 4/4 that gets +5 power, so +1 power from Power Couple will put it to 10, which then just means that that lane that you've put a lot of resources into is also kind of a big liability. There might be some locations, you know what, I didn't check the featured locations for this week. I'll do that before the end of this video, but yeah, I think that that is just a little bit too much to invest into this power couple, which means that ultimately you're going to have too much difficulty winning one of the other 2 locations. I could be wrong. +1 power on Iron Man does seem really, really cool. You don't have to play them at the same location either. But yeah, it just becomes a little bit awkward on the curve if you're not doing that. Next up, we have Miles Morales and Ghost Spider for +1 power. And this is a tricky one. This is either, you know, I think that this is honestly right here. Now this is cool. I was just talking about the Fantastic Four and how they're not synergistic with each other. I love that all the Spider-Mans are move cards, and I think that they should even play more into that. Like Hercules should be reskinned into a Spider-Man, and whatever other move cards other than like maybe Vision and Nightcrawler, but maybe even those should be Spider-Man 2. And Jeff, make Jeff a Spider-Man. Jeff Spider, Spider Shark. And change Spider-Ham. I'm getting off on a tangent a little bit. Point is, these cards are already synergistic. You would already play either one of them potentially in a deck where you're playing the other. And if you weren't, it's like a pretty nice incentive on top of what you were already doing. If you were already, well, I think if you're playing Miles, then you're possibly playing Gwen. I don't know. There's some interesting decks that I've played Miles in before, and I don't think I played Gwen in them. And then I do think that Gwen can work in like Phoenix decks, which might not be Miles decks, but could be at the same time. I'm not sure. I don't have Phoenix, so I'm not... Here's the thing. This is a B tier because move isn't that great. I think that a little bit more stats would definitely be nice. Miles is one of the best cards in move, so that definitely gives a little bit of extra incentive to play around with the archetype for this week. I still can't... I think that move has like other problems that this just isn't going to overcome for you. But I'll throw it in B tier. It's not totally garbage. It's not totally horrible. And next up, we've got She-Hulk and Daredevil. And I think this one might actually be horrible. And I mean, realistically, you could put this in C tier. But I think the devs recognize that this isn't a great power couple with the fact that they're giving 2 already good cards plus 2 power with this. Because Daredevil is already kind of a cool card. She-Hulk is obviously already a great card. So the fact that they're giving this pair plus 2 power means that they like recognize that these two are inherently not synergistic with each other. Daredevil, so if this was a throuple, if Magic got in the mix here, then this could potentially be a combo. But without Magic, I would say that these two are almost like a trap to play with. Because Daredevil's going to let you see what your opponent is doing on turn 5, and then you're going to skip that turn so that you can soak up into She-Hulk anyways. So it really does not allow you to make the most of your Daredevil or your She-Hulk. You kind of like have to pick one. And that's not something... Because both of these cards are so powerful, they have seen like a small number of games. I'm talking like in the hundreds of games together on Untapped. But they're not... They're inherently at odds with each other, the two different strategies. One wanting to make a huge play on turn 5, and the other one wanting to make no play on turn 5. So very awkward, I think, to reconcile the two of those, and that's why it's getting a D tier for me for now. But I don't know. I'm optimistic that somebody will be able to make that work. It's just not... I don't know. I think that putting +2 power on 2 already good cards seems really good. Part of me is just like putting it at D tier because it feels like a trap, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that it's a trap, if all of that makes sense. Next up, we've got Star-Lord and Gamora. That's going to go pretty solidly at C tier. Gamora is a good card. Star-Lord is not. And these two are only getting +1 power. And Gamora isn't that good of a card. It's just an okay card. And it's actually kind of not great in most current metas. Like, it's not good if your opponent is just playing Sarah on turn 5, because then you just have to predict where their Sarah is. And then it just gets Shang-Chi'd or Shadow King'd anyways. These two are synergistic. The other thing that I just remembered I forgot to say as well is both Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman have ongoing abilities. So if that's relevant to you, it might be relevant. And both of these have a on-reveal ability, and it's basically the same on-reveal ability. It works well with Jean Grey, with Nebula, with Storm, with Professor X. So these cards do have a lot of synergy, considering they are the exact same ability, just for 2 different points on the curve. It's not something that super excites me just yet, though. For +2, I think that would move the needle. But at +1, I don't know. I'm just not super impressed by it, to be totally honest, and something's got to go in C tier. And I think like the move strategy and Iron Man. I don't know, I just basically think everything else is better than it. And I also think that Vision and Scarlet Witch is better. And this is kind of like the same thing that we started the list with Sarah and Angela. These are both just great cards. These are... this could honestly be argued as S tier as well. I'm kind of curious to see how everyone else feels about these ratings and where all of these things ultimately fall by the end of the week. Vision's just a good card. It's a little bit awkward that he's mostly seen in Thanos lists, which have a cheaper version of Scarlet Witch in the form of Reality Stone. Also kind of a flavor fail that Vision is working with Thanos instead of working with... oh, no, this is the biggest flavor fail in Marvel Snap. So, Vision is a Infinity Stone, right? Vision is the Mind Stone. But he does the Space Stone thing. He moves. So I don't know. I think Vision needs a rework because Vision, at the very, if nothing else, Vision and Mind Stone should do the same thing in Marvel Snap, right? But the on the Vision is most commonly seen in Thanos decks, which already have a Reality Stone. I don't think that doesn't mean that you couldn't play Wanda in those decks as well. An additional +1 power on Vision isn't going to make him Shang-Chi-able, but there's other decks. You could just literally, like, these are both just good cards. You can put them in any deck. And I think that will be interesting to see if both of these two cards just see a lot more play this week. Maybe I do like this. Maybe this is right. Honestly, this might be the best couple just because this can literally go in like any type of good stuff deck. This can go in the Sarah decks. Like, it might be more powerful than just playing Angela. The thing is, both of these cards can just win games, so they're powerful enough cards already, and just giving them a little bit more power, a little bit more incentive to play them seems pretty sweet. So there we go. That is my tier list, and that's going to be it for me today. Let me know what your thoughts are on this event and on these individual power couples, how I rated them, how you would rate them. But for today, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.